Hey everyone, it's Dr. Lynn Love here. I am going to be doing another channeling through the Akashic Records today, specifically about self love and embracing your magic. So, I came up with this because this spontaneously came to me. And self love and just loving yourself, loving others has been a really big topic that's been on my mind recently, especially after the Libra full moon, with understanding how do we come into right relationship with ourselves, with others, how do we come into right relationship with all of our relationships, right? Because Libra is that energy of relationships. And there's a lot of feeling and there's a lot of intuitive downloads that I'm getting specifically about self love. And I wanted to open up the Akashic Record specifically for this because I feel like this is going to be even more important now more than ever. And so I wanted to share about this and actually be supported by the Akashic Records to share why it's important to incorporate self-love as a practice now, why it's important to embrace your magic and what that even looks like, what that even means to you as a individual watching this, and also why all those pieces come together right now in this moment because there's so much shifting in the world. There's so much happening right now on a energetic level collectively and happening all over the world. I mean, politically, um there's a lot of intense energies, and it's very tragic. And one things the main thing that keeps coming to me is how can we love ourselves, in that how can we not in loving ourselves to forget others, but rather how can we love ourselves so much that we can then step into our own fullness, our own true self, and that true self gives and is able to be of service and able to step into their purpose and be confident enough to do that. And in order to do those things, you have to love yourself. You must practice self love because it empowers us to have the confidence. It empowers us to have more desire to do something than listen to the fear that sometimes stops us in our tracks and gets in the way of like being you and shining and sharing your light and sharing what you can to your community and to your people. And so this is a really important moment for this because there's so much changing, there's so much unraveling on a cellular level, on so many levels, that we sometimes have to be reminded of these basic fundamentals, that sometimes it means loving yourself is simply just taking care of your body, doing the right things for your physical body to be healthy, eating right, sleeping well, making sure that we pay attention to our mental and emotional health, which is another piece of self love and self care. And one thing that's coming to me is that when we do start to understand that our emotions give us information about what's going on, and that we don't actually have to avoid our emotions, but we can instead see them for what they are, hold them, and have a different relationship with our emotions rather than avoiding and thinking and resisting that they aren't there. We can invite them into our space and allow them to be there, but not allow them to take over us or take control of us or really deeply influence our emotions and what we say to people. We can instead learn to balance the logical, the rational mind with this creative, more emotional, intuitive mind. And that is an important function that we are here to learn, and that we're going to be integrating a lot more, is this understanding that the emotions do actually give us so much. They help to empower our stories, and they help to empower what we do in the world. And those things are really important for um, creating and being connected to other people as well. And one of the things that is coming through about emotions and the mental health is that oftentimes we come into contact or we seek support from a system that doesn't necessarily think and have the language for, or even have space or capacity to process and to understand certain emotions and certain thoughts. And that's where I think so many other philosophies and ways of thinking, cultures, and views can come in to help support us in understanding and giving us language to those different feelings or experiences that we have. For example, Chinese medicine gives us a really um, beautiful understanding of the emotions, and that the emotions are tied to actually different parts of our body, to our organs, and that the organs themselves have their own intelligence. They have their own brain. So the lung has a brain. I recently listened to a talk by Sister Dong Yim, and she actually talks about how there's different brains in our lungs. There's a lung brain, there's a heart brain, there is a liver brain, and all of these different aspects communicate to all of the parts of our body that one aspect is not in balance, and so that causes a ripple effect to all of the other organs and all the other part of the body. So the body is always seeking balance and harmony and healing. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be a compensation for that energy. When there is a disruption in one part of the body, there's going to be a compensation somewhere else. The body tries to remedy that. And so one thing that I've learned through practice and through understanding Eastern wisdom from Chinese medicine, from studying Buddhism, from practicing, and from sharing this wisdom is it really comes down to how can we come back into presence with our body, because our body is showing us the way. Our body has components of nature and the mother earth and everything inside of us, and so we have this beautiful innate intelligence that is guiding us. So it's simply coming back into present moment so we can understand what our body, what our mental health, what our emotional health is telling us, and then go from there and be able to, because one thing I want to note here is that our awareness and our presence is already a superpower, and whatever we put our mind to, whatever we put our awareness to, is extremely powerful. And we often forget that, and we often forget that power that we have. Another thing that's coming through is loving ourselves, because we are the walking ancestors. There's so many people that came before us on our journey, on their journey, and allowed us to be here on our journey. And so by loving ourselves, we are innately loving our ancestors. We are innately loving the people that came before us, because we are the living versions of them, and we are essentially standing on their paths and walking and continuing walking their footsteps. So when we love ourselves and when we honor ourselves, we start to honor indirectly those paths that came before us. And oftentimes, you know, growing up, it was hard to, as an Asian American woman, I grew up with a lot of self hatred, and there was a lot of like, not loving myself, not loving my culture, not loving who I was, and not actually knowing who I was. Instead, I got a little lost in what everyone wanted me to be, because I saw that as a survival mechanism. And I think is deeply, that could be deeply multi-generational. And at the same time, it's something that was a very real experience for me growing up and even my adult age. And what helped me remedy that was deep, radical love and acceptance for myself. And actually, by loving yourself, by doing your self-love practices, you start to unravel um, some of the patterns that keep you stuck from the past. And also, you start to understand a lot more about your family and your ancestors and things that maybe didn't make sense before, because that started happening to me. And I started realizing that, you know what, like there's some deep fear. I sometimes am shaking and I have anxiety and I get really nervous and my heart's beating really fast. And I want to show up and be who I am. And then there's also a part that gets afraid and doesn't want to show that aspect. And it's interesting juggling both for a long time. And this message of needing self love and incorporating self love tools and practices in our life, so that way we can love ourselves more than the fear that we feel, is super important and is the key to us moving forward as women, as us moving forward as people who have uteruses, who hold the memories and experiences of people before us. And so there's a lot there that needs to be metabolized within our bodies at this very moment and in this very time of being, and self-love and embracing who you are, embracing your authenticity, your magic, your soul authenticity is all a part of that. And I'm going to be sharing some tools specifically from the Akashic records about how we can incorporate these tools and techniques to love ourselves and embrace our magic. So, master teachers and loved ones, is there any specific love, like self-love tools and transformational techniques that you want to share with everyone listening right now? The first one that came to mind was mirror work. So this looks like going to the mirror and seeing yourself and sharing affirmations to yourself, and things that you first try, things that you feel about yourself and that you know is true, like reality things. It can even be things that might seem negative at first, but you are actually stating a fact and a reality about something. For example, you're saying, even though at this moment right now I don't feel confident, I I'm open to becoming my most confident self. Something like that, right? You're almost admitting and embracing the fact that you do not feel confident in this, and in this moment, and you are also in this very moment opening yourself to a new possibility of becoming your most confident self, or becoming confident, and doing some sort of mirror work like that. And then gradually, as you continue doing that, doing affirmations and mirror work where you're looking at yourself and you're saying, i I am opening myself to becoming my most um, highest version of myself, my most healthy version of myself, to becoming a CEO of my company, or becoming, an entrepreneur or a traveler, or anything that you are working towards that you want to incorporate in your life that you haven't yet. You want to incorporate that into your mirror work. And so I want to see if there's any other tools that want to come through. Another thing that's coming through is art therapy, whether it's through writing, drawing, painting, sculpting, anything like this, where we get to use our hands and we get to transmit energy out into our external world, is really powerful at helping to move energy outwards. And one thing that's coming through is that actually, when we're using our hands, we're using our heart channel a lot, because our heart channel is going to be in here. Our pericardium channel is going to be right through here. And when we start to use our hands, we're actually transmitting energy from those meridians out into the world. And we're literally creating love, and we're putting love out there. So when we continue to work on our own craft and we continue to create, in any shape or form that looks like for you, that is really powerful. One example that I have for this is, I used to be so into making jewelry and making earrings. And there was a time where I was like crazily making earrings. I would do it all the time. Like my fingers would hurt, and I would like watch, TV sometimes, and like just make earrings kind of mindlessly. And I loved, like, a part of me loved being productive, and another part of me just like enjoyed having something to do with my hands. I'm a very kinesthetic person, and so that felt really beneficial for me. And then also, I loved being able to create things that I could wear, like my own jewelry that I could be really proud of. And so I would be making art and wearing it and giving it to other people and just feeling so proud of my accomplishment. And so doing that, when we're creating these physical objects of love, it's very palpable to see that our self love, us choosing ourselves and choosing to do this thing, is a form of self love, and also a form of it's also very therapeutic as well. Um, to also add on to the mirror work, there was a long time where I used to struggle with hormonal acne, and I was doing all the things. I was doing acupuncture and herbal medicine, and making sure I was eating right, and doing all the things to heal my skin, and it still wasn't working. And I remember being really sad and having low self-confidence and just feeling like I wanted to, not show my face. I wasn't confident in myself. I didn't feel and I would tell myself, I would say, until I healed properly and had nice skin, I would not be happy. And I would tell myself these things. And it wasn't until I started doing mirror work where I started to heal my skin. And I was doing all the things, I was doing all the things on the physical level, mentally, emotionally. I had to stare at myself and look at myself and fully love and embrace myself. That was a practice that changed my life and changed my skin for the better. And so I want to dive into I feel like there's one more tool that wants to come through the Akashic records, and it's going to be what's coming through is self portrait and taking photos of yourself and being able to, or even like creating photos of yourself, creating perceptions of yourself. That can be through art, right? It doesn't even have to be you, an image of you, like you physically, but it could be like an interpretation, like a very abstract painting of what you feel your energy is, and being able to put that somewhere and see that outside of you and see something and celebrate that and be like, this is so beautiful, this is so amazing. Because when we are inherently proud of our creations, unless there is a limiting block or belief that our creations are not enough, or that we should be ashamed of our creations. But inherently, the mother archetype is inherently innately proud of her creations. She's proud of her babies. And so when we create from that place of, I'm going to create this thing, this is what I feel like I want to create and put out in the world, and this aligns with me, we in some ways are innately proud of that thing, and we should be proud of that thing rather than seeking approval from anyone else. We should be solely doing it because this is something that aligns, this is something that sparks us, and we want to put this out into the world because we feel like it's not only going to help us, the past version of us, but versions of you, right? And versions of the people you want to help. And so those are the things that are coming through for me. I want to see if there's any last things that want to come through the masters, teachers, and loved ones. What I'm getting is self-love is not just a it's not just what we are told it is a greater world. It is the whole scope of everything. And so when we get to apply self-love not only to the physical but to mental, emotional, financial, to our spiritual, to our relationships, it can be applied to everything. It's an action of loving something. Loving yourself, loving others is an action. It's a constant that we grow into, that we develop a relationship with. And so self love isn't just you doing the self care, it is beyond that. It's changing the mindset, it's connecting to your soul and connecting to your consciousness that happens when you are able to be present with yourself and present with others as well, and also with life. And so that's what wants to come through. I want to thank everyone who joined me in this intuitive download, this wisdom healing download. I want to share, if you are interested in asking any questions, please feel free to comment below or share what you thought. And if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And I want to thank you for joining me here. Take care.